Piper. I am the Martian ambassador.
Des Moines and all of Central Iowa, welcome to Mac's World Live. Mac's World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Mac's World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Mac's World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
6 minutes after 3 o'clock on the 23rd day of March in the Lord's year 2016. I must start out, and I know she's not listening because she's working, but my baby girl is 29 today. Now, I have to admit that when my oldest daughter turned 40, I kind of went, oh, wow, she's 40. Because I don't think 40's young. I think 40 is, when you're 40 years old, your kids have probably left the nest. You're probably focused on a lot of different things in your life. And so when my oldest daughter turned 40, it was like, okay, wow, I've got a 40-year-old daughter. But today is kind of the same thing. My baby girl is 29 today. And I posted a picture on Facebook of her when she was, I think, like 1. And then a picture of what she looks like today, which is just as beautiful. Look at the eyes. Look at the eyes in the 1-year-old and the eyes in the 29-year-old. And so we had lunch today wherever she wanted to eat. You'd think she'd want to go someplace fancy, but no, we went to the Chinese buffet. And then I brought her a donut, white frosted donut with sprinkles. And she went up to the buffet to get a second plate of food because she's like her father that way. And I stuck a candle in it, and I lit it on fire. And then I sang happy birthday to her. And I've got it on video, but she was not happy when I about pushed Facebook post.
Ah, yes.
So anyway, happy birthday to Doodle, Samantha K, and I love you. And I hope she starts listening. She didn't realize that we talked about other things other than Jesus on this show. And so, because she's kind of like where her old man was a long time ago, God guy, and we're fine that way and everything. So anyway, March 23rd, 29 years ago, she was born at like 4-something in the morning, and my wife, God bless her, said, go in on the radio. Just go in and tell everybody that you had a baby girl. And so I went in on the radio that day, and I was just giddy, that we had just had our last child. So anyway, happy birthday to her. Speaking of babies and throwing tantrums, Luke Tim from Living Faith is here today, and he is one of the 3 pastors that I have called to walk through Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday through a certain book. You're walking through Luke. All right. And then tomorrow is Matthew, I believe, with David Bloom, and then on Friday, Tom Clegg is going to walk through John. So this is Holy Week. We need to spend as much time as we can understanding what's going on, and I'm kind of hungry to learn. I don't think I've ever been so focused on the message of Easter as I have been this year. I painted a picture for church, which I'll put online here one of these days. I'm not an artist, but I painted a picture. I use words in my pictures. They're called wordies or wordles or word bombs. When you take a Bible verse or a poem or something and you scatter the words all over, and so I did one of those. And so I've kind of been, and I read all 4 Gospels of the account of the resurrection, or the Palm Sunday to Pilate and the whole 9 yards. And so I'm just hungry to hear what an educated man wants to say and wants to teach me about Holy Week. We started out this week with Luke Tim. We thought, I'm going to start out with the best and see where it goes from there.
Mac, I think, too, this show, as your daughter has learned, that
Chris Roloff, KTI station manager.
Yeah, thanks. And like as your daughter pointed out, she came to learn that we don't just talk about Jesus on the broadcast. And I think one of the ways that we promote Mac's World is this is the place where we talk about what everybody else is talking about.
Water cooler.
The water cooler talk. And in fact, Mac, you and I were just talking about this earlier down the hall here at the radio station, that this is either meaning the topics that we're talking about the next several days, Holy Week, is either what is the water cooler talk right now at your place of work, or it's what should be.
It should be. That's
the water
right.
cooler talk. Because of all the times, we as Christians, this is a time of the year where we can be outspoken about the centrality of the gospel, the center issue of the gospel, the cross. You see white crosses up in front of yards now. You can see those there when you're driving around.
Yep, one in my house.
People know this time of the year, it's not just about Easter bunnies and Easter eggs and springtime and all that, but it's really about this new life, which is what's going on in spring and the new life that we get through Jesus. So it's great water cooler talk, and that's what we do here on Mac's World.
Yeah, and this is one great time to spread the gospel.
I think so.
Easter. I mean, we can't do it at Christmas so much anymore, because it's been so commercialized. But, except for chocolate bunnies and Peeps, Easter is pretty much about Jesus and the resurrection. If you do not have a church home, or you want to come to a more of a pageant or a performance, our church traditionally has traditional Lutheran services for Easter Sunday morning.
What church is that, Mac?
Lutheran Church of Hope. But we also have 25 services at all of our campuses, and these are more of something you might go to the Civic Center and hear the message of Jesus, only it's biblically correct. So we have 3 services tomorrow, 2 on Good Friday, 5 on Saturday, and then 5 on Sunday. So, and every campus has their own. Ankeny has their own. Johnston Grimes has their own. Waukee has their own. Downtown Des Moines has. So we invite you to come there. All right, so Luke is in the house, and he's going to. You better tell us. Do you have
What's up?
Do you have an Easter service?
No, we decided to cancel all of them.
Really, just not a big deal.
I heard that you might show up, so I thought it'd be safer.
Yeah.
No, we have Easter services, our regular service times. We like to not deviate at all and just pack people in. So get there early, or it's going to be standing room only. But it's at 8:30 and 10:30 on Sunday morning, and they are the best services we do all year. So
142nd and Hickman. On the northwest corner is Heartland Presbyterian, and Living Faith shares a piece of land with them right in back of them. So as you turn south on 142nd, they're the first driveway, and you head right back there. Services at 8:30 and 10:30. And do you have something special planned, or just the same old threw him in a tomb, wasn't there when he woke up?
Yeah, we always do. We just try and bring our best is really what it boils down to. We try and do what we always do. We sharpen it up a little bit. We'll have some horns there. I love to have brass on Easter.
Will it be better than Christmas? Because your Christmas was pretty darn good. That was one of the best I've ever seen.
I know. I think it's probably even going to be better than that.
Really?
Yeah,
Am I going to get one of those foolish texts again?
No, you're going to be busy on Easter, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, Christmas Eve. It's 6 o'clock, and I believe your service was at 6:30.
7, yeah.
So at 6 o'clock, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do for our services. I'm involved in our services, and I get a text: if you don't come to my Christmas Eve service, I won't be your friend anymore. So I went over, and I got to tell you, it was a great service. It was one of the best services I've ever seen, and I mean that. I've said that to other people. It was really that good. So, all right, we got 2 stories we want to talk about before we get to the gospel.
Yes, sir.
One is one that you're passionate about, and that is what's going on with Apple, right? And the iPhones.
I know. Sounds weird.
Why?
Because I'm passionate about that. I think it's a big deal.
All right, yeah, no, that's fine. And then the other one is one that you and I started to talk about, Chris, that we found very quickly that we kind of disagreed on. And that was, that's the story I wanted. That is this one. So, Dateline, Des Moines, Iowa, a court says Iowa authorities had no duty, no responsibility, no authority to protect residents of a nursing home from a sexual predator who assaulted a 95-year-old woman after being placed there by court order. Now, let me finish the story before you comment. The Iowa Court of Appeals ruled this morning that the state had no duty to supervise William Cubbage once he was discharged from his treatment program for dangerous sex offenders in 2010. The court says state officials didn't have to develop a safety plan for Cubbage once he was at the Pomeroy Care Center. Willis Hamilton is a lawyer representing the estate of the victim, who has since died. He says he can't understand how state officials can argue Cubbage was too dangerous to be released, but put him in a nursing home with little old ladies with no protections. So your opinion is what, Chris?
Well, I have to stand a little bit corrected simply because I don't think I understood the story the way I read it. Because what I read initially was, can I see the opening line here? So I looked down on your production notes and I read the sentence, the court says Iowa authorities had no duty to protect residents of a nursing home from a sexual predator. And I went, what? Yeah, they need to be protecting people from a sexual predator. I thought that the sexual predator was going there but it says that, who assaulted a 95-year-old woman.
But they both live there.
Right, but okay, I'm not sure I understand what happened. So here's what I'm trying to understand. What happened was this person was on a sexual offenders list, right? Already? No,
he was not on a sexual offenders list, and that's going to be the argument of the defendant, or not the defendant, the prosecutor, the attorney who is handling the case for the deceased, the 95-year-old woman. He was released from state control, state supervision, state whatever, in 2010. He was 90 years old, and they failed to put him on the sexual predator list. Therefore, when he was put into an old folks home, his name didn't come up anywhere.
The question that I have is, this assault happened a long time ago, or the assault is current?
The assault is, well, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
All right. Bob Montserrat is here, Ryan's here, Jeb's here, and you're here. You're the most important person. Thanks for listening to The Truth.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
from the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
21 minutes after 3 o'clock, 3:21 on the 23rd day of March in the Lord's year 2016. My little girl's 29th birthday. Happy birthday, Sam. Daddy loves you. All right. Speaking of people I love, Bob Montserrat is in the house today. He watches the chat and also the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line, which you can text at any time you want at 515-809-0993. Bob monitors it, and we'd be glad to read your comments. Also, you're willing to call in. If you're willing to call in, we'd like to hear. It's your voice I want to hear from at 515-244-0077. Ryan's producing. Jeb is learning. Chris is here. Frank is not. And our special guest for the full show, the full 2 hours. Yes, we put out the cockroach raid, and he still got past it. Little booger. They go into the hotel, and they don't come home. But he gets out. You're tougher than a cockroach. Luke, Tim.
Take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment. Sure, take it that way. Lead pastor at Living Faith Lutheran Church, and their big Easter services are 8:30 and 10:30 on Sunday morning, 142nd in Hickman. All right, so we're talking about a couple different stories here, and the one we're starting out with was one Chris and I began to debate before the radio show started, and I said, let's take this debate to the radio show. So what's happening is there's a 95-year-old man. His name is Cubbage, William Cubbage. He was discharged from a treatment program for dangerous sex offenders in 2010. He then was moved into a small-town care center where he raped and assaulted a 95-year-old woman. And he was placed there by court order. And his lawyer, Willis Hamilton, her lawyer, she's been deceased. Willis Hamilton says the state had a understanding and a responsibility to let the nursing home know that Cubbage was a sexual predator, and should have told the nursing home so they would have known that he was there. And an Iowa court says no, that the state had no duty to protect residents of a nursing home from a sexual predator who assaulted a 95-year-old woman after being placed there by court order.
See, and here, Mac, is the confusion in the story is a little bit about, I really blame the writer of the story a little bit, to be honest with you, in my confusion, because it's not the most clearly written article. And
it's the Des Moines Register.
Yeah, well, here's the way I understand the story. We have a gentleman who committed a sexual offense. He was put into a treatment program. He was released from the treatment program in 2010. He's an older gentleman in his 90s. 2010, he was put into this nursing home. While in this nursing home, he committed a sexual crime again.
Right.
He raped a 95-year-old woman.
Right.
That woman has now died.
Yes.
And now the
estate
of the woman who passed away is suing the state of Iowa, saying that they should have notified the nursing home about his past.
Yes.
So that's the story.
That's the story.
That's the story. So we debated in the hall, down the hall here at the radio station before we came on the air a little bit about this, and I had misunderstood it a little bit. The state definitely needs to protect its citizens. The state of Iowa's primary responsibility is to protect its citizens. I mean, that's really what the government's for. Now, the government does a lot of things that it's not for, but that's really one of the things that it should be for. But here what we have is an issue of, as Pastor Luke Tim pointed out off the air, how was this person sentenced? What was part of his sentencing when he was originally convicted of the previous sexual crime? And that's where the determination should be. That's where the question should be placed. In other words, when he was convicted, what were the terms of that conviction or the sentencing? And then that determines whether or not the state had the responsibility to tell the nursing home.
It also appears that there's some question over his mental capacities at the time, and that appears to be why the judge decided to. So the move appears to be sort of a secret move with closed records to the facility he went to. because of this dementia is what he suffered from. And now the courts are going to have to debate and argue whether dementia falls under a certain category of something like mental abnormality or whatever it might be, to figure out if the judge did that properly. I mean, this case is a mess. That's what
Sounds
it boils
like it.
down to.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. You kind of, Pastor Luke, you kind of hit on it there, is the people the authorities that placed this gentleman in this nursing facility knew who he was, knew his past, and placed them there knowing that he could be possibly a danger to others. I mean, in other words, seems to be some responsibility, at least some information should have been given to the nursing home to say, look, this guy's in this particular state, he's had this particular past.
Right.
Take extra precaution, because the nursing home should be there to protect its residents.
All right, so let me just step in here for a second and just give you some information. I don't know what side I'm on yet, but let's just talk about this.
Yeah.
There are bills currently in the United States legislature that would not that would stop an employer, a potential employer, from asking a potential employee of their police record. Right now, there's a box that you have to check. Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Right.
A misdemeanor? Have you ever been in jail, et cetera, et cetera? The liberal left, the low information voters, the progressive idiots, pardon my language if you're one, I don't mean to offend you. Well, maybe I do. They want those boxes removed.
And so do I.
They want those boxes removed. They think that if you're going to hire somebody, you have no right to ask whether they are a felon or not, or whether they've had serious misdemeanors or not. Right now, in the state of Iowa, you can be turned down for an apartment if you have a serious misdemeanor. You don't even have to have a felony. It used to be the dog got you off the hook and you can't live here because you got a dog. Now, if you've been convicted of a serious misdemeanor, you can't even live certain places. So the question is, how much power do you want the court and the government to have when it comes to your past? Because I think I have every right to ask Bob Mansoret if I'm going to hire him to be on the radio, if he has a outstanding misdemeanor, if he has a serious misdemeanor, or if he's been convicted of a felony. Why don't I have the right to ask that? Well, they're saying I don't. So if I don't have the right to ask a potential employer that, why does the state have a responsibility to give someone's past to an old folks home? 515-244-0077. It's your voice I want to hear. Do you think the state should have had to tell the Pomeroy Care Center that William Cubbage had been discharged from a treatment program for dangerous sex offenders?
I think that you're dealing with kind of different cases here. When on the one hand you talk about felonies or serious misdemeanors, there's a different category for sexual predators because it tends to be something that recurs pretty regularly. Then there's a lot of not just anecdotal evidence, but science behind it, that it's something that happens over and over again, and that rehabilitation is something that is not easy to do. So there is the community at large, society and culture at large ought to know when there's a threat that is posed to them. So on the one hand, I feel like it probably, they did have some sort of right or some sort of obligation to inform that he was had this history and past to him, but I don't think we should lump everybody into that. I have a lot of good friends who've got felonies on their record, a lot of good friends who have spent some time in prison, and it's something that haunts them even after their lives have changed, and they can't get employment and they can't get ahead, and so they end up, stuck in this spot where because of a mistake they made once upon a time that, they've changed and rehabilitated their life. It's a life sentence, and that's ridiculous.
Luke, let me ask you a question here. This is my
Tell him no and see what he says.
Luke, I'm going to ask you a question here. Good one, Mac. Oftentimes I see progressives and the left, so-called, okay, do things that the church should be doing. In other words, they take and step in and put the government involved where I think the church should be involved. And I think this issue is a good example of that, because the church has failed to come alongside ex-convicts. It's an opportunity for the church to actually, and there are programs like this, where the church can actually come alongside convicts, people who've come out of prison, and say, we're going to help you through this process. We're going to help rehabilitate you. We're going to come to your aid. We're going to be your positive testimony. We're going to help you get a job. We're going to be the, yes, I know he did that, but here's what's happened. And we, as with our good character, we're going to lend our good character to this person, be Christ-like in that way. Sort of, there's the unity there. And what happens is, if we turn that responsibility over to the government then, because the government has no moral agency, what they do is they let wretched, wicked people free. And what the church can do is actually heal sinful people that have been converted or changed or have actually gone through some positive transformation. But the government can't do that, because the government then has no way of determining if this person should just get off because, well, we can't ask him anymore. They could be terribly reformed people that haven't had a change, but we can't ask them now, and there's no one there backing them up. So it's an opportunity. If we leave the law in the book that you have as an employer the right to ask, then it forces the church to step up and say, this is an injustice, and we, the church, have to step in and say, we're going to fix the injustice, not pushing it off to the government and saying government needs to take care of the injustice, because the United States government can't.
244-0077, that's the number that Chris just called. Chris, you're live in Mac's World on 99.3. How are you? Hold on. Ryan. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, sir. You have a comment or question?
Yeah. First off, I just want to praise God. This is a true week of independence. This is really what independence is, of Christ conquering the grave and for our salvation. And also, I'm a retired police officer, dealt with lots of sex offenders. I can tell you, in the 30 years in law enforcement, I've never met one that was ever rehabilitated. They are predators. They know what their prey is. They're constantly hunting. And I don't care if they're 20 years old or they're 90 years old. You don't put a wolf in a chicken house. I mean, anybody that did that was their responsibility, and there has to be accountability for this.
So do you think the state had a responsibility to tell this nursing home that William Cubbage was in a program for dangerous sex offenders?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Chris, thanks for listening.
No problem, too. And also, I do think, I understand there's two sides of that story about the people asking if they're felons, or, I don't think there's anything wrong with asking it, but holding it against them, I think, is the other thing. And somebody was commenting on the church healing, and I do believe that people can be rehabilitated, and we all make mistakes. We all fall short of the glory of God. So I understand both sides of that story, but the state absolutely failed. They dropped the ball on this big time. So. Thanks, Matt.
Chris, thanks for serving as a police officer.
Yeah, you betcha.
That is not an easy job, and thank you for doing that for us very much.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, hey, have a wonderful week, and praise God.
Yep, he is risen.
Thank you.
All right, we have Bill on the phone, but I'm going to hold Bill off because we're coming up on a hard break. You asked him a question. Do you have a 30-second answer?
Yeah, and I do actually appreciate that way of looking at it. The problem with that, however, though, is the church isn't what it once was. Not that it's better or worse, but nowadays when you talk about the church, it's easy to kind of say that as this nebulous entity, but it's really made up of people who have a day job, and most people have full-time careers, and it's really hard for most churches to be able to connect with somebody to do that sort of legwork. I just don't think it's possible anymore.
Have been required to tell the old folks home about the sexual predator? We'll talk about it next, live.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
.338, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, right here. Salem Radio Network News at the top, and then the week. We're in the middle of it, the Holy Week. You're going to hear sermons. You're going to hear testimonies. This is the week, and this should be the water cooler talk wherever you hang out. If you work at a Wells Fargo cubicle downtown, or you're an executive with principal, this ought to be a week that you feel you have permission to talk about what this week's all about. It's not about chocolate Easter bunnies and egg hunts and coloring eggs and spring hats to wear to church for you creasters. It's the reason that the world is the way it is today. Jesus changed the entire world. Now, you may not want to accept the fact that he exists, that there's a God, or whatever. That's your challenge in not accepting it. You understand? Just because you don't believe in him doesn't mean he doesn't believe in you. You can't make him go away by clicking your heels together 3 times and saying, there is no God, there is no God, there is no God. God exists. Get over it. The sooner you accept the fact that he loves you no matter what you do, and his grace, the blood that Jesus shed on the cross 2,000 years ago, is enough to forgive you for all your blasphemy, for all your sin, for all the pain you've put people through. That's what this week is about. Next hour, Luke Tim from Living Faith Lutheran will walk that week from Palm Sunday to Easter. Right now, we are having a very interesting conversation about whether the state of Iowa has a responsibility to tell a nursing home, and this is a specific case, that a man, they're going to put in their court order to this nursing home so they can take care of him. Did they have a responsibility to tell the nursing home that he was a sex offender? Yes, he had successfully gone through treatment programs, But it was a treatment program for dangerous sex offenders. While in the old folks' home, he assaulted a woman. I don't know if she died because of that assault. We don't know that. She was 95. I would imagine that wasn't very helpful for her living. And now her estate has sued the state and said the state had a responsibility. You have a responsibility. Remember, the state is not somebody else. The state is me. The state is you. It may be the biggest cross we have to bear, other than submitting our life and our soul and surrendering it to Jesus Christ. It may be the biggest responsibility we have in remembering that we are them. We are the government. We are the state. 515-244-0077. Do you think the state had a responsibility? Let's go to Bill. Bill, live in Mac's World. How you doing, Bill?
Good. Hey, I absolutely think they had a responsibility to say something. I mean, don't you have to be on a sex offenders registry list? I wasn't a sex offender. I was a thief and a con man and everything else. But I think they have to be on a sex offenders list because they can't live in certain places. They can't go to certain places. And I absolutely think you tell people about your past, and then you prove to them by what you're doing in the present that that's what it is your past. I think the government needs to stay out of that. But if you're trying to change, if you're really trying to change, and Jesus has changed your heart, you'll tell people, and eventually someone will cut you a break. And I agree with your one guy there who said that the church needs to step up and to do its thing. And I understand that the church is working and doing things. Maybe I got out, guys gave me a job that were in my church or my family's church, and I started at the bottom and I worked up, and I'm not very much higher than I was 11 years ago, but I'm not in prison. I'm not doing drugs. Everybody knows about my past, but then I was not scared to let you know what I was doing when I was out doing my thing. So,
Bill, you are the example of Jesus. You realize that?
Well,
when you come forward, you repent, you publicly repent, you ask for forgiveness, you don't hide it from anybody, and you let people who love you lift you up and give you the best opportunity to prove yourself, and they've done that. And you know, it's interesting because the people in the church, quote unquote, the church, are usually the ones that are said to be the most judgmental when we're supposed to be the most forgiving.
My mentor, who I picked for my mentor, he said that he was the most judgmental person. He said he could not believe that he would come into a prison and work with guys that are in prison that are trying to, change their lives. He said that he was completely shocked when he made the decision to do that.
Wow.
So, and that guy, he's been dead 2 years now, but I'll tell you what, if I hadn't have met that gentleman right there, there is absolutely no way I would be where I'm at today.
Well, perhaps God sent that man along your side to help you in your journey.
Oh, he did. And hey, I was trying to get a hold of the radio station. I messed the numbers up so bad. A guy named Pastor Jim answered, said his name. He was the redhead, and that you'd know him. And he said, "Say hi, Jim Stogdill."
Oh, Jim Stogdill, yeah. I know Jim.
You were trying to call the radio station, and you got his number.
I messed their numbers up so bad that I got him instead. He answered Pastor Jim, and I said, "Well, I'm trying to get hold of Mac's World."
That's awesome.
And did he know the number?
Yeah, no, he didn't know the number, but he said he might have to start listening more.
That's funny.
James Stogdill. I'm shocked.
That's right.
All right, Billy, thanks.
I gotta go to work.
Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. All right, one more call because we got them stacked and I want to take them. Paul is on the hold. Paul, what do you think? Was the state responsible to tell this old folks home, this retirement center, that this man had been a dangerous sex offender?
Well, there's two things. I believe in the biblical law and capital punishment. The man should have been dead a long time ago, so he should have never been there. And then we can track him all day long, know exactly where he's at. Secondly, the judge is responsible for this. If you're calling us that we're the state, we're the government, I would want to fire that judge and make that judge directly pay out of his pocket any of the penalties that are to
He's the one that made the decision to put this person there.
Yeah, he made it a court order, and then he didn't turn around and tell the retirement center. Paul, I appreciate your call. As always, I like your voice in my radio program. I appreciate you calling.
Take care now.
All right. Hey, he is risen. Remember that. He's risen. All right, 3:45. Luke?
Yes, sir.
So what do you think?
Well, in this, like I said,
I think this is messed up.
Yeah, like I said before, in this specific case, I think there is there's an obligation for the court to say something. But we were talking earlier about the church's role in helping to restore people, and the local church works hard to do that sort of a thing. It's just that over time, with the laws and all of the litigation out there about what the standards are for care and all of that, it got to the point where it's become too onerous on most local congregations to own and to run these kind of facilities. I mean, that's why you have places like St. Mary's Hospital. I mean, they're still named after those churches that ran hospitals once upon a time, but it's just the quality of the rules and regulation, all of that has made it so that it's just impossible for the local congregation to do that sort of work. And are there other solutions out there where a church can be involved? I think there are, but the point I'm trying to make is not that the church should acquiesce and say, forget it, the state should do this. And it's not as if the church did that once upon a time, like, oh, never mind, it's too hard, forget it. But rather what's happened is that it's become so much of an institution, it's hard for a local congregation to do it.
Well, the conversation continues. It's nice to have both sides represented. All right, when we come back, Luke Tim, when this whole Apple thing came out, you were kind of passionate about it. I mean, you have a definite opinion on whether the app should lock this phone or not.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's really aggravating me is that the story's bigger than that. This is about the FBI. It's about all kinds of baloney that's out there that really needs to be looked at closer.
And we'll look at it closer with you being the judge. Today, right here, live in Mac's World. 515-244-0077. It's your voice we want to hear on The Truth. 99.3.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Minutes before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News. Next hour, We're going to get into this this whole Holy Week thing from Palm Sunday on Mount Olive to Calvary Hill on Friday afternoon and then into Sunday. And Pastor Luke Tim from Living Faith Lutheran Church is here to talk to us about it. All right, the story that's had you irritated, and I told you next time you come on, we talk about it. And you say I've got this wrong. Everybody has this wrong.
Most everybody has this wrong.
This is not a case about a phone that may have incriminating information about the San Bernardino terrorists, ISIS. Perhaps it could have prevented the Brussels attack yesterday if we could have just gotten into the phone.
If only.
But Apple won't let us.
Yeah, that's the story that the media is trying to get us all to swallow, that if only these big corporations would play nicely, then maybe we could prevent terrorism. Well, the reality of the case is the San Bernardino attack was horrific, and when they finally got a hold of all of the material evidence that went along with it, when they finally got the guy and his wife deader than a doornail, they've got this phone, this Apple iPhone 5C, and there is the newest version or newer version of software on it that will wipe the phone if you try and unlock it unsuccessfully a certain number of times. So what they're saying is, well, we need Apple to help us crack this phone because there's got to be all kinds of gooey goodness on there, all sorts of terrorist treats that we can then take and use to stop all these other terrorist things. What they're not really sharing is that there were 2 other cell phones that this guy, Saeed Farik, had. And those 2 other cell phones he destroyed the day of the attack. So it stands kind of to reason, right, that maybe those were the ones that had the stuff on it, and that this iPhone that was his work phone, that maybe he was smart enough not to put all the terrorist information on that one.
And the work phone is actually owned by the county.
That's correct. It's actually owned. It's a government-owned phone. And here's the other thing: is that the way your Apple phone works is there's an iCloud account, and everything on your phone backs up to it. Now, that had been turned off on his phone, and there would have been a way to then take that phone and back it up to iCloud, because you can set those settings. Apple could have gone to those settings on the iCloud, set it so that it backed up all the information, taken the backup of the phone, and gotten the information that way. But while the phone was in the possession of the FBI, suddenly it got bricked. They tried to log into the account and they changed the iCloud password. So now the iCloud account doesn't match what's on the phone. So the FBI bricked the phone so that it would not back up to iCloud. This is all on purpose. The FBI is, in my opinion, clearly making this the case that is supposed to be the clearly, easily won case where the FBI gets to say, look, the guy's dead. We're not going to break anybody's privacy. The dead guy doesn't care, because he's dead. It's a terrorist. They killed a bunch of people. He's, from the Middle East. He's got one of those Muslim-sounding names. Let's make this legal precedent that we can force Apple to give us a hack into their phone. So that's what's really going on.
I didn't notice, but you have tinfoil on your head.
I did. I know it sounds like that, but look at the facts.
So you're saying that the FBI is doing this on purpose to force Apple to have to give up this information, so they'll never have to do it again.
And do you realize that just New York City alone has 175 iPhones that they want this hack on? But those are things like drugs and petty crime, but they have all these phones sitting around that they can't hack into, because if they try what's called a brute force to hack the phone, what Apple did was smart. They don't have exactly the 128 or 256 encryption. What they have is, if you mess it up enough times, the phone will wipe. Okay? So there was like 3 people who came out, including McAfee, the guy who invented McAfee protection
security
software
system. Yeah.
He came out and said, I can hack this phone. And like all these people kept coming out going, I can hack a phone. I can do this. I can show you how to hack this phone. And there were at least 3 really credible ways to hack the phone. And the FBI went, well, we don't think that's going to work. We're going to go to court with Apple. And the idea is that what they want is the master key, not the encryption, but they want the master key to be able to brute force attack a phone without it wiping itself. So, on the eve of Apple going to court with the FBI, suddenly the FBI went, oh, never mind. We just heard from some other guy how to hack the phone, so we're going to go and try it that way. Because they were, in my opinion, realizing that they were about to lose in court. This has never been about this guy Saeed Freak's phone. There's probably nothing on that phone. There's probably a dozen different ways to hack into the phone to get the information that's on there. The FBI wants a master key. They do not want encryption on any individual's phone. They don't want the ability for us to have something they can't get.
All right, so this is a privacy issue then that I should feel that nobody has the right to look at my phone other than me.
That's debatable. I don't really necessarily feel strongly about that. I feel strongly about the FBI launching this incredible misinformation campaign and trying to force a private company to create software to co-opt them and say, look, your engineers now work for us and here's what they're going to do. That's crazy pants in my opinion. For the FBI to walk in, what if they walked in and said, well, we've decided that hospitals have to do this. Well, we decided that computers have to do this. That's insane. To let the FBI decide what private companies should and have to do.
I just know that when I tell my wife I'm on the phone with Joey from State Farm, if I don't give her my phone so she can see the ID, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess this is one of those deals. I guess I've become that person, and I was never this person before, but I become that person that says, listen, only people who do things wrong, illegal, are afraid to turn their phone over to the FBI. Here's my phone. I don't know what's on there.
Oh, there is something about that, and there's something about, look, nothing I do is going to be that big of a deal. Like if there's 300 million people in this world. A lot of them have iPhones. If they're doing petty criminal stuff, the FBI doesn't care. They're looking for the big fish.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't be able to tell a corporation what to do.
Okay. Well, how will this get figured out? 30 seconds. What will happen here in the end?
The FBI backed down because they were going to lose. They're going to hack the phone with a third party anyways, and it's all going to go away. This is going to be the end of it, is what I'm guessing. But
so does Apple win then?
Apple wins.
And who loses?
Nobody. That's why it frustrates me so much, because it's a false campaign. There was no big, terrible, scary thing. The FBI is trying to scare the citizens of our country till we just turn everything over and go, okay, whatever you want us to do, let us know.
All right, Luke Tim on the secular side of life. When we come back after the break with Salem Radio Network News, Holy Week. Starting on the Mount of Olives, when Jesus mounted the donkey and drove into Jerusalem and was hailed as the king. And then, 10 days later or 7 days later, stricken down in the prime of life and crucified. And then rose again. Yeah, it's true, because it's on 99.3 The Truth.